Conversations, and we are back again. Dakbo, how you feeling?
Good. It's been a minute.
We went on a bit of a hiatus there, right?
Yep.
I would have to say like I was just like overwhelmed with the amount of work that I was involved with in the last quarter of 2022, and it significantly affected our outputs and productivity for the podcast. For you, what was it like towards the end of last year?
It was just like I was juggling a bunch of things, jumping here and there, the usual Lagos hectic, going up and down, and then working on a couple of projects and trying to make sure that I deliver them in time. Because like once Christmas period enters like this, there's a lot of wind down. So it's either you want to get a bunch of stuff done before that period, or you're juggling, all the regular social activity of December, with the work that you still have to do.
So there's a kid, Mason Greenwood, a Man United talisman, super talented kid, and he got in trouble a while back. I want to say just about a year and a half ago.
That sounding like how old is he?
He's 21 now.
Okay.
So yeah, he's a kid, and so some audio recordings came out and some photos from his partner about assault, and the news came out recently about how the charges have been dropped completely, and this, as you would imagine, has sent some dialogue conversation about this topic into a whirlwind, and it's so much to unpack. There's always, when it comes to like relationships and abuse, from the outside looking in, it's easy to say things without understanding what's happening on the inside. But I think the most important thing is to note that, like abuse is just like a no-go area, right? An assault. And on the one hand, I think it's worth it, especially for women, if you're listening and you feel like discouraged, because there's data that shows that a lot of women do not report these things. But I think it should be encouraged to speak up. And there's an account that really helps, Women's Aid, on Twitter, a very useful account for those kind of scenarios where if you're in some kind of abusive relationship or you want to get out or something, like you can just maybe reach out to them and check out the resources they have there. And on the flip side, for like guys, if you end up with maybe someone that says, hey, you have to punch me in the face for me to like get off, like just run. I think that's my opinion. you know
You don't
you
want
you
those
know you might,
situation.
you really don't want that, right? Even if you have a third party and they sign like you have it on recording that they say you really have to smack the crap out of me for me to, no, just run. It's not worth it. There's so many things to unpack about this. I feel like there are other platforms that will go that have a deep dive, but I think when it comes to things like this, it's always better to like proceed with caution and try and understand as much and talk and share ideas instead of just making one-off calls about things like this, because these are really complex dynamics. And very important, abuse is definitely a no-go area, and I don't think anyone should be caught abusing anyone else. They should
So
pay the price.
like I didn't know of this story up until, just before we started recording. And I was just, now that you mentioned it, Man U guy, and then the charges were dropped. I'm now curious, okay, like did the phone call, prove anything? Like what really went on? And like, to be honest, I usually like to, or prefer not, for this type of news not to come to me. That's probably why I didn't see, because the way I've tried to curate like my Twitter and social media is so that I get as little, news as possible, especially like of the negative bent.
Mm.
But now that it has come up, I'm now like a bit more curious as to what the situation is. Maybe I might look up, what happened. I
Mm.
hope that the charges being dropped means that there's some sort of positive resolution for either party.
Yeah, I'm hoping the same. Actually, I'm hoping the same. There's been a lot of discourse happening in the background the past couple of years when this case has been trying to go to court or whatever. And I think it comes off the back of a Man City footballer, defender Benjamin Mendy, also being acquitted of, I think it's 4 counts of assault.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a big conversation that needs to be had. And I also think in sports, especially, young men need a lot of mentorship, especially with like relationships and finance. I don't think that exists. It's just all about the money right now and flashy cars. But I think young men, like, they need a lot of mentorship in sports. There's just like that lack of guidance is a lot of it.
Like
But yeah,
even aside like mentorship or guidance, because that sounds very hands-on, and we live in this very fast paced, ain't nobody got time for that type of world. So I'll just say like there needs to be good examples. You just need to see good examples of successful, athletes who just have it together, who aren't like doing
Yeah.
any hanky panky, no games, no scandal, no assault, no nothing, and then know that yes, it's possible to be successful, wealthy, and have your shit together without getting into any trouble.
Agreed 100%. And on to the next piece of news here, which is about the new Naira notes. I think it's caused more headache than it's provided solutions.
Ah,
From people forcing their way into banks to ATMs charging excessive fees for withdrawals.
ATMs aren't charging excessive fees for withdrawals. ATMs are being programmed to have a base fee. So the thing is,
Yeah.
banks, so the speculation basically is that bank staff are hoarding the notes. They are supposed to load the notes into the ATMs. The instruction from CBN was that you can collect the old notes over the counter, but don't give new notes over the counter. Have people go to the ATMs to collect new notes. That way,
Mm.
or the transaction like happening, on the card and recorded and all that. But people aren't getting the new notes. People, so for instance, I wanted to buy something the other day and I went out with the 1,000 of new notes and I said, do you have change? And my do you have change was not, do you have a 500? It was, do you have the new 500? And of course, the person didn't have. And so I held back my money and refused to buy. So I mean, on one hand, I can say I save money, but on the other hand, that person has lost revenue, has lost sales, you know. So it has created a whole kerfuffle, like countrywide, especially in Lagos, where it's highly commercial, highly populated. There's now like a whole lot of mess. Banks are, full ATM queues, people are fighting, people are, it's creating a serious mess. I think at first when they announced it, a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
who had concerns about money being used for vote buying, money being stashed up by politics, because we're, about to enter election season, we're about to go into regime change. So it's like, I said regime. Well, I guess, I guess, but people at first thought it was a good idea because it will stem some of those, bad behaviors that people might have dashed cash to do. But the implementation has been terrible. The scarcity has been terrible. It's been such a short period of time. A lot of commerce happens with small amounts that people, can't be going, like the frequency of doing those type of transactions digitally or going to the bank to deposit, going to the bank to withdraw is too high for anybody to say, oh, they'll just stop using cash, even when it's convenient to do so. If you're holding a 1,000 naira note and you want to get on a bus and the bus ride is 200 naira, they're still going to have to find 500 naira to give you, and that 500 naira has to be new note. And if that new note is not is scarce, it's going to create a bunch of problems. So it's causing just a tidal wave of issues, problems. You've probably been seeing photos and pictures on social media of people like losing their shit.
Oh yeah. It's actually a domino effect, and it's not in a good way. Just the idea of just saying, hey, stop spending this note by such and such date, and the fact that they even extended it, and I feel like that might not be the last extension. Like, I will not be shocked, and it's just a lot of irresponsibility in not predicting or making or creating an alternative that is already working way beforehand.
Yeah,
It's
like systems like NIBS, like the Nigerian Interbank Settlement System, and then even the banks themselves, like they haven't been stress tested. This is the kind of thing where, they should have carried all these guys along and said, okay, you're about to have an influx of, digital transactions, NIBS, banks. Hope you guys are ready. You should have done like some penetration tests, unit testing, and things like that, just to, like, this is not the kind of thing that you just do wake up and
Yeah.
say, everybody, you have 90 days to adjust, whether you are a bank, whether you are NIBS, whether you are the seller on the road, whether you are the worker, or everybody just boom, and then everybody is now in total chaos. Like the implementation was not thought through at all, and it shows.
Anyways, good luck to the CBN. I feel like obviously a lot of the people who are making these rules and declarations, quote unquote, are not necessarily directly affected by this,
Oh,
right?
of course,
They
of
have
course,
access.
of course.
They have access to these resources. They probably already have a mountain of these new notes in their rooms, like they always do. And the average person on the street will have to be the one to run and interact with those POS people now with the POS machines, and those ones are gonna say we don't have new notes, and there's a lot of counterfeit already out in the market
Yeah,
already.
like even the notes were even like very poorly done, right? It was just like
Yeah.
somebody just went on Photoshop and just applied the color layer on top of it. So there's no variation in the color, so which makes it easy to counterfeit. The inks that were done were cheaply done, so it's you are seeing some units are actually washing off. The POS guys that you mentioned, some of them are charging like as high as 20% on a deposit. So imagine having to pay a POS guy 200 naira to get a thousand naira, or 2,000 naira to get 10,000 naira. That's crazy.
It is wild, but hey, is where it is. Okay, let's talk some tech. Let's talk some new stuff that's coming out, in tech. You've seen the new M2 Max. I know at some point you're going to be upgrading your Mac, but the announcement felt like this should have been a 2022 release, you know. However, this is a huge upgrade in a way, especially if you don't have, M series Mac yet.
Yeah.
You probably don't want to go M1 if you're looking long term. What do you feel?
So, I mean, when the M1 came out, everyone was like gushing about how much, faster it is than the Intel processors that came out. And it was like, that was like a paradigm shift in processing power for portable, not even portable, like, computers in general. And now they've pushed it even further with M2, smaller nanometer chips, faster GPU processing, and all that. And it's very interesting that like when you think that things would maybe plateau, but there's still like, you know, jumps and leaps that they can make in improving speeds and performances of these things. So it's very interesting to see. Yeah, of course. So back way, if money is complete, I would love to get an M2 Mac. Now they've like basically swept their entire lineup has moved to M2, except for the glaring omission of the iMac. I suspect that they want to keep the iMac as some sort of family computer because it's also the only one that has like these bright colors and all that. And if you look at like the marketing material, you see it like, in a living room, you see it in a kitchen, you see people doing FaceTime on it and things like that. So I think that, and that was like one of the original positionings of the iMac when they did like the Bondi Blue, the eggshell shaped one of 98 or so. So I think that's where they're trying to position the iMac. However, there are lots of professionals that, bought it and are using it for their professional work. In fact, like if I got it, it will serve all my needs.
Yeah.
So I don't think they should leave it at it. I think they should upgrade it, despite the fact that they are trying to position it as all that we are that I am speculating that they're trying to position it as a family computer as opposed to a pro computer. They
I
also,
mean,
yeah, keep going.
no, what I was gonna say is I agree, with everything you said, and I think it's kind of like making the Mac Pro look like it has to have at this point like a huge reveal, because where
Yeah.
everyone's waiting, that's the only Apple computer that has not been upgraded to the Apple
The
chip, right?
M1, yes.
So, and if you look at it, like those computers cost from like 10 grand all the way to like 50 or 80 grand,
Yes. Yeah.
depending on how you spec them. Do you know how much they're going for trading right now at Apple?
Much. Like when you swap it in.
If you want to trade in your Mac Pro that costs you 40 grand USD to purchase,
How
you want
much?
to guess? Just ballpark.
Maybe like 50% off. Because I know those trade-ins can be pretty bad.
It's the worst. It's way worse than that. It's sub $1,000. Can't even buy an iPhone 12 Pro or a 14 Pro.
Wait. So someone bought, and this thing is still on their website. So someone
It's
bought
still,
a
yep,
desktop computer, beefed up desktop computer for 10, 20, 30 grand, 40 grand.
yep.
And then say, oh, okay, you people have new. I want to buy from you the same Apple that sold me this computer maybe a year ago. And I want to buy another computer from you, but I want to give you this one so you can recycle the parts or whatever. And they're only going to give me $900 off. That's crazy.
Yep.
That's cheating. That's the kind of thing that the government should get involved in.
I think I think when I saw that, that just made me realize that I think the Mac Pro was the first NFT.
Ah,
Because
that's
how
fun.
can you how can you spend all that money on this beefy computer? And it's not like the computer is useless. It still works.
Yeah.
But then again, and now it can barely buy its own wheels. Those wheels cost like what, $800?
Oh, I think it was 400. Or was it
Was it
more?
400?
Ah,
I think it was 200 per wheel. I might be wrong. It's worth doing a fact check on that.
I don't. And like from what I'm reading now, the M1, no, the Mac Studio, right? The one that looks like a cube, the with the
Yeah.
Ultra chip, right? I think that one's still
Yeah.
on M1, but it's M1 Ultra. I think that's the currently the fastest one. And I think
Yeah.
like it benchmarks higher than that beefed up Mac Pro. Like they should have just suspended it and taken it down. They should have just said we're not selling this anymore. Like it's not for sale anymore. That
Oh yeah, even the M1, I think the M1 Max MacBook Pros were outperforming it on some renders, on some tests. So it's ridiculous. You have a laptop that's 16-inch and is outdoing this computer that costs as much as a few Corollas. Do you get? It is ridiculous. And I just checked the price of those wheels. Yeah, it's 869 for a set of four.
and they are
Yeah.
still being sold on the website, on Apple's website.
There's a big blue icon that says add to bag. Not my bag though.
Did I
But
wrong?
yeah, But yeah, it is the worst. It is the worst. That's the worst trading value in the history of everything. And they released HomePods too, which HomePods like sound like really a really good idea on paper. Like, hey, like you have the smart speaker with the one of the best audio qualities in town. But then you look closer and you're like, wait, you mean I cannot just pair any other device to this as a Bluetooth device? It has to be an Apple device. Like, wait, you mean it always has to be powered? There's no battery. You're like, wait, you mean I have to use Siri, which is the dumbest
Oh,
like
so wait,
smart assistant?
it doesn't have battery.
Oh no, you have to. It always has to be powered, and
Oh,
and and you're stuck with Siri. I remember this is Siri that came out of the gates like, hey, look, I'm the chosen one, and then Google and Alexa came through. Like, no, you're not. Like, they just surpassed it in everything, and it's just so silly. I feel like WWDC this year needs a Siri 2.0. That is one thing I feel like if they announce, I will be proud of like how far they've come, because Siri is so far behind right now that it doesn't even understand contextual conversation where you ask a follow-up question after you've asked one. It struggles with that, and that is
so you
something,
have to remember like the comparison, right?
yeah.
So the three smart assistants that we have: Siri, Google Assistant, and Alexa.
Oh wow,
Up,
crap on Bixby. Crap
what
on Bixby.
what is a Bixby again? So like you have to now look at like the DNA of each company, right? Google is like
Yeah.
the data company, the web company. Amazon, AWS, EC3, so they too they're like deep in data. But
Yeah.
Apple is like deep on hardware and native software, right? So it shows that they can't like do some of this type of digital, especially like services that are live. Like it shows also in things like Apple Maps, right? Where they can't really their execution on such services. It'll look pretty, it'll look nice in the press shots,
Mm-hmm.
and then if you put it on California or whatever, then you'll be getting good results. But anything else, you just be seeing rubbish. So that's exactly what's going on with Siri. It's like it's lagging behind because it's really not in the DNA of the company to do services at that level. And I
Mm.
think what one of the things they should do is basically just like dial down what it is they're telling users to expect from Siri. The only thing is that even if they do that, people are still going to just compare it with Google Assistant.
Oh, for sure, for sure. There's always gonna be that standard of comparison, one to one, always, right?
Yeah.
But I really do feel like Siri needs to grow up. It's about time.
Yep.
You can
Yep.
you can't be a teenager forever. I see. You had enough for S23. Talking about you want to talk about Galaxy devices?
Yeah, they just released that. I think it was yesterday or the day before. Well, from today, whenever you're listening to this so it's a slight improvement over the S22 of last year. And like I'm beginning to get endeared to Samsung's like, hardware design. And if I'm going to,
Mm-hmm.
in fact, like this might tick off some Apple fans, but to me, the S22, especially like the base level one, because I prefer, smaller devices. If you compare it with a 14, right, an iPhone 14, it actually looks better. Has slimmer bezels, doesn't have a big notch in front of it. The back has just the three cameras in a row. No casing or bump or anything around. It's just the cameras themselves on the back of the thing, and then it's just one straight back, and all that. So it's like Samsung design has been refined. It's looking a lot neater, less superfluous parts and designs, which is surprising because that was the kind of thing they were guilty of doing, in past hardware designs. But also like the innards of just be like maybe I would say minor, but just I'll say minor, okay, minor upgrade from last year. So if you had last year's one, of course, you shouldn't need this one. But all the well, it's looks good so far. Can't wait for let's see reviews and comparisons. I think all the focus just be on cameras, cameras, cameras. Things like screen,
Yeah.
performance, all those things have become, par for the course at this point.
Agree 100%. And I think, Samsung, like you said, always always come through with design. Like, it's inevitable. And I think they're getting much better now with supporting flagships over time with firmware updates. So if you buy a phone now, you can use it for 3 to 5 years.
That would be
It's
refreshing.
That will be refreshing. So because those phones are not cheap, especially when it comes to repairability too, because Samsung screens are so difficult to fix because of the intricate design, right? So people end up spending a lot of money to repair those screens. So if somebody's willing to invest that much money in a phone, you should be able to support them like long term. Like, hey, you could use this device for like 5 years plus, perfection, right? That'd be good. I'm looking forward to that
There's
with
one
Samsung.
thing I would change about it is that they should remove the fingerprint. Although it's more sophisticated, but they should remove the fingerprint sensor from inside the screen and put it in the power button. That solves the repairability problem. At least I think so. The screen problem. And then I think
Yeah.
that the hardware button as opposed to the ultrasonic thing might actually be faster. But I wouldn't be surprised if something they've considered and chosen to put it where they put it because it's probably easier to reach down at the bottom in the front.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay, we're making good time here, but I think we're getting close to the end. So let's just do a fire round of like predictions for 2023. I feel like obviously this is a January thing, but February can also be our January. We didn't make it an episode of the podcast in January. So Happy New Year, everyone, if you're listening. So boom, first one, presidential elections, Nigeria. Who do you see winning?
So I actually like that it's a three-horse race right now, and it looks to be neck and neck with all three. Even the person that joined the campaign just 10 months ago has basically caught up with the two, juggernauts. I wouldn't say who I predict. I would say who I'm hoping. But you know what? I would actually predict that for a Peter Obi win.
Okay. For me, I'm obviously not gonna have any affiliation with my prediction. It's just for the sake of let's see how things pan out. It's not a hope. It's just a prediction, right? And just based on maybe some data and some information and general history of how Nigerians vote in elections,
Yeah,
especially most of the people who are not Twitter warriors, the people in the hood, the people who actually vote, right?
yeah,
People who are not on
yeah,
Twitter.
yeah.
I think there might be a runoff between Tinubu and Atiku, which is sad. I know for a lot of people who want like the hopeful thing, and I think Tinubu might just edge it, which is wild. This is a prediction. This is no affiliation. This is like not an endorsement. Like, heck no. But it's gonna be some kind of a close call there. But
I'm
yeah, that's it.
heavily praying that you're wrong.
I hope I'm wrong. It's like, but it's just what it is based on what we're seeing. And okay, for this is gonna be a one you don't want to answer, but I feel like you should. What do you think is gonna be the game of the year for 2023?
Well, so I mean, we don't know all the game releases that are going to be out. Even if they've announced that a game will come out this year, they can still push
Yeah.
it or whatever. So it's hard to just pick, right? Is there a Horizon coming out this year?
Yes, but for VR, so that's the Horizon. And there's actually two Horizon games coming out. PlayStation are going to release an expansion for the already existing Horizon, which
No, no,
is
no.
an online multiplayer version, and then they're going to release a VR experience.
So to me, I think they announced the new Zelda, right? Nintendo announced the new
Eh,
Zelda this year. So
yep, it comes out this year.
so that would be in the running. If Final Fantasy 16 comes out this year as well, that'll probably be in the running. Although I'm losing my love for Final Fantasy. It's sad, but like they basically announced that they're going to be going forward. It's going to be full on action RPG, which I don't have a problem with. But stylistically, it's just I mean, when I liked Final Fantasy, when I got into it, it was a turn-based RPG, and now they're just going full on action RPG. Second is like the graphic style, is the art style is tending towards
Mm,
more realistic characters and whatnot. I think they are looking at they are basically doing the numbers and looking at what the audience likes, but we'll see. I hope
mm,
with Final Fantasy games, it's usually like the core of the game is like the story first, and then like the art, the gameplay, and all those things. So hopefully, the story is compelling enough to bring people in and then
yeah.
keep them in with like very engaging gameplay, very beautiful art and all that. So those are my
I'm
two picks.
I'm really hoping for sure that this game comes out and you love it and you enjoy it and you're like, yo, IG, this is one of the best games I've played in a while because I feel like they owe you a good one.
Ah,
For me, I think this is a year where you have like two major RPGs coming out. Not just two, it's a lot. Like there's Zelda, there's Final Fantasy we just talked about. I think Starfield is gonna be a big release for Microsoft, and
oh, okay.
I do think though, I think Zelda is just such a good franchise that they probably will edge it this year. Thankfully, there's no major. There are from soft games coming out this year from software, the Elden Ring guys. But I don't think they have any game that's gonna compete with Zelda this year. I hope I'm not wrong. But yeah, I think Zelda is gonna take it. I think Final Fantasy is gonna be in the running. If Starfield is good, it might be there. But that leads to the next prediction, right? So which game I think will be the flop of the year?
Mm.
I want to start with Starfield because the expectations are already so high. So I'm gonna go with that. I don't know if you have any news or any game you think might be overhyped that you think might flop this year. But I really hope it doesn't do bad. But I think there's just so much talk around Starfield.
Ah,
It just might disappoint.
none comes to mind. Maybe even like Diablo 4 that was announced. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think it will flop because people who like Diablo really, really like Diablo. Um,
Hmm. Ooh, what about the new EA Sports FC? Because they don't have the FIFA license anymore, right? So they're
oh,
first gonna have to
it's
spend
true.
a lot of money in marketing to let you know that hey, this is
It's a
FC.
different
It
thing.
was FIFA last year, but it's FC now, right?
So what
And
what
so
was
that
the
people might
story
struggle.
there? Why did they lose the license?
Um, it was a back and forth. Like negotiations just fell through with them and FIFA, right? Because I think FIFA felt like FIFA was getting a lot of money from EA, regardless of
Yeah.
sales or not, right? And EA felt like this is getting too much. You can't always be taking this much just because we're using the name and the brand. And so FIFA was like, yeah, it's whatever. If you don't want, like, screw it. And so FIFA came out. I think it was the president Infantino who said something about the FIFA brand will always be with the best sports game. So he's
Wow.
okay with them not being with EA Sports. I don't know what their plans are for this year. I don't think it's gonna go to Konami because Konami released a very terrible football game that they've been patching for over a year now. And so I'm curious to see how that plans out. Yeah, EA Sports FC. Yeah, that's gonna be one to watch. I think that's a category on its own, one to watch.
I think that
Um,
that branding alone would qualify for a flop, right? Just like
yeah.
not an indictment on the game or the quality of the gameplay, just the fact that the name has changed might make people less inclined to buy it. Like if I was in the market for a new football game and I saw EAFC, I wouldn't want it. I'd
Mm-hmm.
probably even just pick a FIFA 22 than pick EAFC.
Fair, fair. Let's do a quick fire round of football predictions, right? Okay, so for Premier League winner, Champions League winner, and Ballon d'Or winner, go.
Premier League, go Gunners! Arsenal has to win
Okay.
it this year. We've made it past half the league, top of the league.
Yeah.
We haven't had it in donkey years. Jesus, they've used it to succeed. So please, Arsenal, please, Ateta, please win it this year. Then
Agreed.
the year, Haaland is looking like the guy.
For Ballon d'Or, are you sure?
Ah,
Think about the World Cup, bro.
Ah, so yes, like you World Cup, but Messi has collected it. Okay, so either Haaland or Mbappe.
What about Champions League?
Champions League. Hmm. I might just say PSG. I might just say.
See, I feel like you put yourself in a corner there because if PSG wins the Champions League, you know who would have won World Cup and Champions League in the space of 6 months. just, just keep that in mind.
So the thing
My
is,
prediction.
they give
Okay,
they give
go ahead.
Ballon d'Or to Messi, right?
Yeah.
You'll be like they've already given him so many times back to back. I'm expecting that this is the year that they'll give Ballon d'Or to someone new, unless maybe this is going to be Messi's last Ballon d'Or and they want to send him off rights or whatever. I don't know.
That'll be really. It's gonna be fun this year. For me, Premier League, I'm predicting Arsenal. So I feel like City will give them a run for it close to the end. However, City this season, I think they've been more reactive than proactive. So, and again, this is not the Tottenham. If it was Tottenham that was first right now, I would have said whoever is second would win because Tottenham are really good at bottling, right?
Completely right.
They are so good at that. So, and I trust Mikel Arteta. Like he has a game plan, and I feel like this is the best year for Arsenal to win it because next year it's gonna be vastly different.
It's gonna be
right?
crazy, man. The amount that
It's
clubs are spending on transfers.
Yeah. Next year will be wild. So Arteta has no choice but to win it this year. For Champions League, I'm gonna go with some left field team, Napoli.
Really?
They
I
are
don't know
going.
how
They're
they're doing.
playing so well. I watch them a lot in Serie A. I don't watch them as much as I watch Premier League, obviously. But oh my goodness, even in the Champions League, what they did to Liverpool in the group stages was unheard of. They play so well, like a well-oiled machine. And Victor Osimhen is like that number 9 you always want in the box. He's always there.
Yeah.
So I'm going
I
for
have to
Napoli
look
for
up some
UCL.
highlights.
You have to. They play so well and keep the ball so well. Very technical players. And last but not least, Ballon d'Or. Oh man, this is a tricky one. I feel like Messi is right there. He's gonna get his 8th, which is wild. There's a close second. It's probably gonna be if anybody wins Champions League, and maybe they just so happen to be in that Argentine team, and they're not Messi. Yeah, but I can't think of. I don't know if any Man City player is okay. Maybe there was Otamendi, but anyways, yeah. So yeah, Arsenal,
But
Napoli.
I think like in a World Cup year or in the year after a World Cup year, World Cup performance is probably weighted, higher for Ballon d'Or than club performance.
Yeah,
That's why me I'm leaning towards,
honestly, I want Kylian to win it. Right, he did everything in that game, and losing on penalties is not a way you. It doesn't really say much about how well you played, right? Because France were asleep for the most of that game, and they woke up and it was like,
yeah, for the first half, I wouldn't even say they were asleep. It was just like Argentina like pressed them completely.
That's how they play. That's how they play in the first half of games. They usually taper off towards the second half, towards the end. They did the same thing against the Dutch. They did the same thing, against France. And I think it almost even happened, maybe not against Croatia because they beat Croatia, but it happened a lot in the World Cup. Okay, so now we've gotten our predictions out of the way. I feel this is a good place for us to wrap. This is like a welcome back episode, so it's chunky. It has a lot going on, and I'm glad we talked about everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is Back in Conversations. We are back until we'll see you again next week, and we'll talk some more about what has been happening, what we are expecting to happen, what we would like to happen, and what we don't like. Right?
Yep.
All right. So catch you guys in the next one. Bye.
Bye.